This week, Sentris developer Samantha Kalman chats to Mike about solving indie musical puzzles. Mel wanders through the beauty that is Black Desert Online, and Jonny Robot explores a game where time doesn't move unless you do. Superhot. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week the gaming world was just a little bit stunned by the news that Microsoft had not only cancelled development on Fable Legends, but was closing developer Lionhead Studios as well. Press Play Studios, the Danish developer behind Max the Curse of Brotherhood, was also shut down as the publisher focuses its time and money on the games and franchises that fans find most exciting. Lionhead Studios was responsible for groundbreaking strategy game Black and White as well as the Fable series. It was purchased by Microsoft back in 2006. The publisher now says that it will remain committed to the UK and European development communities, but it won't be supporting either the asymmetrical multiplayer of Fable Legends or the Hunger Games-esque action survival of Project Knoxville. Another game we won't be getting our hands on is EverQuest Next, with developer Daybreak Games officially axing the project. It's been months since we heard anything positive about the game, but now it's official. Despite accomplishing incredible feats in development, the studio has discovered that EverQuest Next wasn't actually any fun. It's not all bad though. Sister game Landmark will continue in development and it's expected to be released later this year. And while the latest Hitman game has finally arrived in all its episodic glory, if you are hanging out for a physical copy, you'll be waiting for quite a while yet. Square Enix has confirmed the disc, which will include 7 episodes of the game, won't be available until January 2017. So, if you're not a fan of the online model, fingers crossed you can avoid spoilers for that long. In other news, the latest expansion for Hearthstone is arriving much sooner than we thought, late April or early May, and it's a special pack titled Whispers of the Old Gods. There are 134 new cards themed around the Old Gods, focusing on the eldritch deities featured in Warcraft lore, familiar faces like Cthulhu, Yogg-Saron and N'Zoth. Blizzard is keeping busy with another game as well. Overwatch is officially launching for Windows PC, Xbox One and PS4 on May 24, after a short 2-tiered beta earlier in the month. It's an interesting choice of date. The colourful multiplayer team-based shooter is launching just 3 weeks after Gearbox launches Battleborn, another colourful multiplayer team-based shooter. And in still more Blizzard news, the 15-year-old Diablo 2 has just been patched to version 1.14, with the studio explaining that it should fix issues with modern operating systems. It's the first time the game has been updated since 2011, and Blizzard explains there is still a dedicated team working on the title behind the scenes, with more updates in the works addressing cheat detection and hack protection. And if that wasn't enough, there is also a new patch for Warcraft 3, bringing that one up to version 1.27. Blizzard is remaining super quiet on just why it's dusting off these old titles, leading to more than a few suspicions that the classics are being revamped for a potentially polished up re-release. And moving on, EVE Online has just dipped its toes into some real-world science, revealing Project Discovery, a new minigame that has been created by developer CCP in association with the Human Protein Atlas, Massively Multiplayer Online Science, and the University of Reykjavik. It's all about getting gamers to match up patterns, which is something that we humans find easy, but computers find very difficult. The catch? The patterns you're matching are super zoomed in pictures of human proteins, and identifying them helps to further biological research. Plus, you'll be rewarded with ISK and analysis credits, and you'll get to feel all warm and fuzzy after helping people. It's a win-win. In quick news, if you're into importing games, particularly from Japan, you're in luck, as Amazon Japan has officially started shipping select games and hardware systems to international buyers. It's not a free-for-all, some games are still Japan only, and obviously some are still region-locked, but there are still plenty on offer, with the website even switching into English at the touch of a button. The team at Xbox has also opened up the floodgates to get more people gaming, with ID at Xbox chief Chris Charla revealing that cross-platform multiplayer is now a reality. This means no matter if you've bought a game on Xbox One, PS4 or Windows PC, you'll theoretically be able to play it with everyone else who has it, regardless of which platform they've got it on. Including this option is up to each individual developer, but the fact it's possible is pretty neat. And to prove that concept, Rocket League is the first game that will launch with the feature. CD Projekt Red, the team behind the Witcher series, has announced that it is working on a new game due out by the end of the year, and it will be a new type of video game format previously unexplored by the studio. That is in addition to the second expansion pack for The Witcher 3 due out this year, and of course the already exciting Cyberpunk 2077 is due out in 2017 or later, so nobody's quite sure what this new game might be. One theory which fans are drooling over is the idea of a standalone version of Gwent, the card game that's featured so heavily in Geralt's latest adventures. And finally, to movie news. Todd Howard has said that while he's had a number of meetings with filmmakers about taking various Bethesda properties to the big screen, nothing's really clicked yet. On one hand, it's refreshing to know that he's taking the franchises seriously, both Fallout and The Elder Scrolls, but it is a little disappointing after we got so close to a Fallout movie back when Interplay owned the rights back in the late 90s. Similarly, film director J.J. Abrams has confirmed that he has been in meetings to bring another couple of game franchises to Hollywood, chatting to Gabe Newell about both Half-Life and Portal. Before that hype train gathers too much speed, Abrams says the films are in development, with teams of writers working on both projects. And that's all we know. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, got plenty more still to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Player Attack. This week, having a quick look at Sentris, and with me is the developer of Sentris, Samantha Kalman. Hello, Samantha.
Hello, nice to be here.
You developed this game, Sentris. It's a strange-looking game, if you're just coming at it from the outside. What is it?
You made this thing. What is it?
Right.
Yeah, it's a confusing thing, I suppose. So Sentris is a game that's kind of trying to, in some ways, provide a musically creative experience and sort of, incorporate a lot of lessons about making music and about creativity into this puzzle game. So at the surface level, you have a spinning loop, and each of the sound blocks, which are these kind of curved blocks, they each contain one sound. So you select the different sounds, and you can hear them before you add them to the loop. And then you can drop them into the loop. And that's the kind of fundamental aspect of the game is dropping different sounds in different places and cascading everything together to make a sort of melody or harmony. The songs in Sentris kind of came out like musical poems. But then there's puzzles to solve in terms of there are dots on the grid to hit, and the puzzle of it is color matching. So if you have to drop a certain color in a certain place, then you've dropped the right blocks onto all the dots, and then you've solve the puzzle, and then you have a little bit of a tune, and then you move forward into the next progression of the song, or maybe you finish the song and you get different sort of collection of sounds to continue playing your song.
And sometimes as you start getting further on in the different puzzles into different songs, the dots start appearing lower down.
That's true. So the difficulty of the game can be influenced by the position of the dots. You drop blocks from the outside, and any blocks that get stacked will be pushed inward toward the center of the circle. So if you want to reach dots that are a little bit closer to the center, maybe on layer 3 or 4, then you have to actually take a couple of actions to reach those dots. And there can be mistakes that happen along the way, or it just gets more challenging.
When I've been playing through Sentris, by the time I finished all of the songs, I felt like I'd learned so much in terms of the creative progress, in terms of I've learned, timing is very important because every different song has a different tempo to it, and the different chord structures that you can come up with. And you come out of it knowing potentially more about music, like the nitty-gritty of it, than you went going in. But then you can go back to any of the songs that you've previously played, and you can go freestyle. You can now I can take what I've learned and actually create.
Yeah, and you can start from scratch if you're doing the freestyling. Freestyling in the game is a way of overriding the tone of each block with one that you choose manually. So it's very much like a musical instrument. And so you can start from scratch with freestyling, or you can, use a little bit of the predefined sequences and build on top of that. You can also, each level has a remix mode, which allows you through menus to adjust even more of the musical properties, like to choosing the instruments or changing the key signature or, the scale. Like there's different, it's a very, musical theory type thing to talk about the different kinds of scales. But if you think of, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do as a scale, then there are alternates to that. And the game provides those for people that want that stuff.
For the idea that you can make anything that you want and that is aesthetically pleasing to yourself.
Yeah, it's a game that's as much about embracing self-expression as it is about, recreating or simulating even the joy of making music.
And when you've decided, or you have to have lucked yourself into a loop that you personally really enjoy, you can export it.
That's true. You can always export a loop to a WAV file. If you make something that is, you really bopping your head to, then you can just export that, save it out to a file, and then, if you want to drop it into a digital audio workstation or Reason or, Ableton Live or really any audio program, tool, app, then it's just audio data, and you can do anything you want with that, and it's yours. Like, you made it.
So, like, no license to share from other people. It's your creative process.
Yeah, it's pretty much an open license. So, like, the goal of the game is to get more people to make music, taking what you've made and then building on top of it, to make an album. Or, I know that there's a couple of games out there that are using Sentris loops as their soundtracks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a collection of loops. It's been pretty neat to see that. It's what I wanted, and it's nice to see it happening.
Like, getting some success and getting recognition over something that isn't like an adventure kind of thing. Like, it is, because like people take their own adventures into musicality, especially if they're not particularly musically minded. So it must be great to actually see people like embracing perhaps even an ignorance in music and learning more.
Yeah, and just, I like to see music bringing people joy. Sentris is an experience and a game that helps people cross more of those boundaries in a way that's delightful and personal to them. What else could I ask for?
Samantha, thank you for talking to me about Sentris today.
Thank you, Mike. I hope you enjoyed the game.
Oh, I've been enjoying it immensely. I'm going to continue playing it and hopefully making some cool loops. I can make some text tunes for my phone.
Hell yeah.
So the game is out now.
Yeah, it's on Steam. It's also on Humble Store and itch.io. It's out for Mac, PC, and Linux. Mm-hmm. And there's a PlayStation 4 version coming eventually.
Thanks so much, Samantha.
Cheers, thanks.
Nauru is the central city of trading. Back when ships from Valencia would anchor in Nauru, children would greet the merchants and fireworks would light the skies. Nauru was a thriving city of sailors and merchants, and crowded areas were guarded by mercenaries. Little did they know what had arrived.
Literally, the only thing I knew about Black Desert Online was that it has one of the most detailed and beautiful character creators in gaming. It's more than that, of course. There's an enjoyable game behind the glossy exterior, including a number of features not typically seen in MMOs. The story itself is not explained very well. We're not sure whether it was written poorly to start with, or if it's just been badly translated from the original Korean. There is definitely a lot of room for improvement in the translation. Your adventure, 1 day, 3 hours, 5 minutes has passed. It certainly gets the message across, but it's pretty clumsy and there's a lot of similarly awkward phrases dotted throughout the game. Also unusual is the Black Desert Online class system. Particular races and genders are tied into specific classes. I mean, if you want to be a ranger, you've got to be a female elf. There is no male equivalent. And the wizard, a male character, does have a counterpart in the female witch, but while they're pretty much the same, there's a few differences in skill sets. Each class is expected to be capable of standing up for itself in general. The male warrior class has a shield in its offhand, so there's a certain amount of tank in his playstyle, and groups may benefit from playing off that advantage, but if you don't have a warrior in the group, it doesn't mean you can't play. Once you get a bit further into the game, you start finding things to do other than slaughtering endless hordes of monsters. Fishing is one you're more than likely to notice sooner rather than later, with dozens of players camped along the in-game coastline trying their luck. Do enough fishing and your skill will improve, increasing your chances at more valuable or useful fish. But it's not just fishing. You can make a fair bit of money stuffing the backpack full of trade goods in one town and schlepping them to another, gain more trading experience to open additional goods, and if you're carrying them on your back, gain strength experience and eventually be able to carry heavier stuff. Or you could buy a donkey or horse and pile your trade goods on them, vastly increasing your speed between trade points. If you're carrying them in a backpack, you move very slowly and thus face a much greater risk of being waylaid by bandits. On horseback, you can simply run away. But your donkey can only carry so many items in its saddlebags. If you really want to make your fortune, you'll need a wagon. Pile more goods in, travel further and faster, and earn more money. But that's not all. Riding your horse around, even when it's attached to your wagon, earns experience for your horse, which can also level up and thus improve stats like running and turning speed. As you train up your horse, you earn training experience, which makes training your mounts up faster and more efficient. So if you go out and capture a wild horse, you can get it up to speed much sooner. Yes, that's right, you can tame wild horses. It's kind of a pain in the ass as the minigame involved is not adequately explained in-game, and then the reasons for failure are often a mystery. But once you have at least one horse of each gender, whether you bought them or tamed them, you can try breeding them with each other, hoping to get stronger offspring to train or breed further. Unlike other MMOs, your mounts can be killed, and while you can pay a fee to bring it back from the dead, that gets more expensive each time. You can also cook food, dry fish for packaging into trade goods, chop trees, farm crops, mine for precious metals, and I've probably forgotten or simply not even encountered a bunch of others. Like you can apparently breed cats, but there weren't any for sale on the marketplace, and as the game is still fairly new released, it may be a while before that happens. We'll keep you posted. Black Desert Online is full of unusual features like that. Even the waypoint and travel systems deviate from the norm, with no fast travel system available at all. But what you can do is set up a waypoint, perhaps your next quest target, and have your character automatically run or ride an appropriate route for you. It's not perfect, you occasionally find yourself stuck on a fence or a wall, but for things like running between towns when trading, it's a godsend. In spite of putting more than 30 hours into the game so far, it feels like I've barely scratched the surface. There are so many systems in play, it's hard to tell whether I've seen most of it or only a small fraction. And that's exciting, plenty more things to see and do. Black Desert Online is a lot more than just a pretty face. It steps away from many of the conventional elements common to other MMOs without being a totally alien experience. And it feels a lot more fresh as a result.
The adjective revolutionary seems to be a term bandied around our industry with somewhat reckless abandon nowadays. Revolutionary mechanics, revolutionary gameplay, revolutionary graphics. But a revolution, in every sense of the word, is forceful and divisive in nature. Superhot, in itself, is not revolutionary, but the elements are arguably there. But more importantly, it's fun as hell. Superhot's grasp and hold on your attention revolves around one simplistically magnificent hook: time only moves when you do. This seemingly basic premise takes what should be, by all accounts, a by-the-numbers shooter and morphs into something more akin to a turn-based strategy game. Through the integration of a clever interactive tutorial system, Superhot quickly reprograms a player's perspective on how one should engage in combat. Gun-ho charges and snap decision aggression takes a backseat to a methodical and elaborate dance, where the player reads the environment and utilizes everything at hand to emerge combat unscathed. This ask of the player to survive only highlights the sophisticated and subtle design choices at play in Superhot. The minimalist visuals play loosely into the narrative, but more so they convey the game's fantastic visual grammar. White corresponds to the environment, black items are interactable, and red means danger. This use of red for danger is exemplified by enemies being easily identified, but more so, it's in the bullets. The visual grammar of the bullets are perfect. Not only do projectiles have trails leading to identifying where the shooter is, but also reveal the weapon being used, and you deduce this from the spread of the bullets. This sounds simple, but it goes such a long way into making encounters feel fair and leads to moments of true heroism, truly worthy of 80s bombast influences. Alas, this is where Superhot's revolutionary fervor peters out. Great design can't always support a game for long, especially when said game is leaning so heavily on a single non-evolving mechanic. Superhot never really challenges the player by asking them to use the core mechanic in new and surprising ways, which leads to stagnation of play, where the player will undoubtedly find the most effective combination of moves and stick to it. This led to me personally enforcing meta choices on each run, choosing to beat certain levels with a certain weapon, or abstaining from using certain mechanics to always keep the experience fresh. This meta playing approach thankfully is validated by an almost instantaneous respawn upon death, much akin to Super Meat Boy. This allows for free experimentation and eventually perfection for those interested in speedruns and challenges, with minimal downtime and a much appreciated lack of negative reinforcement upon failure. On the topic of meta, Superhot's narrative is another element of the game which initially shows promise, but much like the hook, struggles to remain engaging for long. At first, the narrative feels like it's going to explore the Pavlovian relationship between gamers and the game, or displaced identity and government control a la Cronenberg's Videodrome, but quickly becomes rote with cyberpunk cliches, ultimately never offering anything other than vague illusions due to the decisive lack of context. Overall, Superhot feels like an appetizer, lasting 3 hours at a stretch, but nonetheless a taste of a much grander project to come. What time players do spend with Superhot will be an enjoyable and refreshing experience, well worth the $20 entry price.
Super hot.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we float merrily down the stream with survival sim The Flame and the Flood, and duke it out with a mammoth or two in Far Cry Primal. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.